Let me start with a bigger picture here. I know that the contract to have a Final Four is through, I believe, 2025. Is there a way that if everybody got together that contract could be broken, that we eventually get from 4 to 8 teams before 2025?
Well, money talks, Dan. I mean, I think they could definitely. I mean, contracts can definitely be ripped up if they're obviously agreed upon on both sides. And it's interesting to have that debate. I like 4 personally because I like the exclusivity of it. I like that every game counts, and people say, well, no, that game against Clemson and Syracuse didn't count. Well, if they lost another one, it would have counted. And end of the year, you had Georgia versus Auburn. Winner was in, and Wisconsin and Ohio State. If Wisconsin wins, they're in. If Ohio State wins convincingly, maybe they're in. Then you had Clemson and the ACC championship game versus Miami. So I kind of like the system how it is. I don't think it'll change. I think once we get stuck in a way, I think they have to see it out a little bit, and they want it to go for a little while before they start messing with it, a la the BCS. But I think, Dan, the reason this question has validity is because 2012 was the catapult for the BCS and changing it, because it was what? Alabama versus LSU and the same conference. This year you got Georgia versus Alabama, and obviously some controversy in the way Alabama got in. They answered those questions, but it's always a good debate every single year. Yeah, I think the Central Florida element is what we're looking for, that you get that Cinderella team that we have in March Madness. But it feels like, just like with the BCS, all the pressure that we put on the BCS to say, go from a one title game to get 4 teams in there. Everybody was against this. All of the coaches, everybody. And then all of a sudden everybody goes, yeah, I can see a 4-team playoff. Nobody's, ready for an 8-team playoff. And I do like the 4 with the exclusivity. But I do think if we get rid of conference title games, having Central Florida in there, or Ohio State gets another chance, or whoever it might be, USC, that makes it more interesting for the college football fan across the country, as opposed to locking in because it's 2 SEC teams. Hey, these are the last 2 standing. I have no problem with it, but I do think that you need almost a moment like this to create a little bit of chatter and maybe change here with the current system. I don't disagree. And one thing that is pretty cool, that's been pretty cool to watch, is we've already seen Ohio State run the table of the 4 seed. So we know that just because they're not 1 and 2 like they used to be in the BCS doesn't mean you can't win a championship. And the Central Florida thing, obviously beating Auburn, who beat obviously Georgia and Alabama, makes you think that kind of stuff. But here's the thing I think that will also help our decision making. We have to find a way to do away with the cupcake games. And I don't want to do away with those programs, and I want to find a way to financially still support those guys and make sure that they have programs. But if the SEC and ACC played each other, in the added conference, and then the SEC played the Pac-12, and the SEC played the Big Ten, and the ACC played all the different conferences, and then we all matched up more against each other, you might have a better feel of who's good and who's not, and who is more deserving at the end of the year, whose resume, dictates at the end of the year more so than anybody else. So I don't doubt that there's ways that we could tweak this and make it better. I just know one thing, after being in the meeting rooms, Dan, for all these years, I was sold on the BCS till the cows come home. And all of a sudden that same guy came in there the next year and told me that we're going to do the 14 playoff. This is a great thing. And I'm like, wow, that changed quickly. So there's nothing to say that we can't get to 8. And listen, more football ain't bad, but we actually have to find a way to shorten the season a little bit, too, for the kids.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.